Well, g'day, John O'Brake here from Business in Bare Feet. I'm here with the beautiful May King as usual. How are you, May King?
I'm very well. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Very good. I'm at least calf deep in snow right now, I'm looking at calf deep snow. So feel sorry for me. I'm in northern Minnesota. I'm in Minnesota in the middle of the coldest week I think they've had in 45 years. They did have recorded temperatures in the state next door, Wisconsin, of -41, and which is where Celsius and Fahrenheit are exactly the same. I'm a Celsius guy, so it really didn't help me. But none of that. We've got a fantastic guest today, Georgie. Pleasure to have you here, mates. And Georgie is coming to us from Central Europe. I'm just going to get Georgie to do a quick introduction of himself because he does it best. I've spoken with Georgie a few times. He's working with some of the gang here at Business in Bare Feet and on some other projects. So Georgie, just a quick introduction. Welcome.
Well, hello, Jono. Hello, May King. Very pleased to meet you online. Thank you for having me formally for this fireside chat for Business in Bare Feet. A little bit of background. Yeah, here in Central Europe, it's pretty much a very nice day, sunny, hitting 15,
oh, shut up.
15 to 16 Celsius, going on a real bike ride.
Yeah.
Without those fat tires.
Yeah, I'm getting the fatty out later.
Yeah. And yeah, about myself, I have I've lived a little pretty much across several countries in Europe. I'm Bulgarian, lived a little bit in the UK, grew up there, then a little bit of France, and currently located in Luxembourg. And what we take care of in our everyday life is basically providing legal advice to digital nomads, to startups, to entrepreneurs, where we advise them on the full life cycle actually of their business. That can be startups, it can be angel, cap, seed, Series A, through Series C, and we leave the IPOs to the bigger firms. But at least that's what we try to do is, and I think we manage doing it pretty well, as we see from our client base.
Yeah.
But also being, Jono, you know that, but I grew up with a Commodore 64, so I'm kind of a little bit geeky, and that's most probably one of the reasons we're going to be speaking about some tech stuff also. But yeah, I am actually also a founder in a tech company that takes care of AML automation, and I have been invited to join actually another company which is deploying prop tech, they call them, some specific technology on blockchain enabled in order to be able to do some fundraising for real estate. So all this automated and working flawlessly.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of background I have, and that's the mindset which our clients appreciate and helps us get their business further down the road.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Georgie. And I'm really excited about today because, we're obviously going to have a bit of a conversation about, particularly about, being secure in your small business online. In a world today where privacy, data security, IP breaches, probably a lot of the work that you do. And certainly I've had a background in that from cybersecurity. So very excited. Thanks, Georgie. And we'll get into that interview right now.
We're living in strange times, and I come from a communist country, and I've actually grew up a little bit there, and it's just appalling to see to what extent people are now abandoning privacy, as whether to a couple of years ago back in communism, everybody was afraid to have this kind of dossier or file with personal data identification and stuff. And now virtually, well, not virtually, but basically everybody is pretty much fine to.
Almost like we're okay with it now. It's crazy.
Yeah, but we don't yet have the downside of it, but once that personal data is kind of, and there isn't a day where you don't have a leak somewhere, someone, somehow, cloud providers and all that stuff. So it's becoming a very, very difficult thing to handle. And we see on the European Union level, there is a convergence with this electronic identification directive, which is kind of improving, where there's going to be a slightly more protection on personal data, but it serves rather people that are curious than rather pursuing.
Before we go too far into this, Georgie, I'd actually like to have a 10 or 15 minute recorded conversation on personal security. Is that possible? Just general
IT, or just how, in what's the approach?
Just things that you've noticed, things that people can do to be a bit more guarded, because this is a huge problem, especially for digital nomads who are, they're in internet cafes, they're on Facebook and they're doing all sorts of stuff, and they're not really thinking through, most people don't, well, most people I think don't think through things like identity theft until it happens to them, right? And companies or individuals. And I know I don't know if that's necessarily, but it's just something that you've just talked about for the last 3 or 4 minutes. So it's just as an anecdote, not as advice, just as an anecdote, because I think this is a really important piece of information, if that's okay with you.
It's okay. And I'll give you just to give you the background, is that this is relevant within the understanding of, let's say, economic intelligence. You've got, internet scraping, whatever. Right. If tomorrow I'll give you a personal example. For the first time I stepped on the North American continent, it was 4 years ago, roughly. And when I had to change my passport because it expired, I basically you have to hand over the old one and you get your new one.
Yeah.
I had to take pictures of my Canadian visa in order to be sure that if I fill in the form again to go there, that I don't mix up things, because this is going to red flag stuff, and they're going to say he's lying on when he went there, when he and the right to be forgotten is, people don't distinguish legitimate interest, which is now everywhere over the internet, because you land on a website now, you basically get a disclaimer of what kind of pants you're wearing. But in legitimate interest is that the legitimate interest for the user is to just get that wiped out once you don't pursue anymore any legitimate interest. And a cookie on a website is, sorry, but I don't see really how this boils down to legitimate interest of the web provider, that's hosting or the owner of the website. So when you put this in that perspective, you basically realize that there's so much data there that you can scrape the internet and find several versions of your own self being there, which don't necessarily exist, because you can register for Uber Eats, but you don't care where exactly you're going to be delivered or whatever, or you've been on holidays. And then one day this comes out because they have been hacked, and they say, yeah, but this kind of stuff. So even when we speak sometimes with prospects, I just put, Zoom, other stuff. One day I had on my telephone, and it's very funny because nobody sees it, but I have an emoticon where I have a ghost. And I was on a web conference one day, and the clown was like, who the hell's with the ghost telephone? Who's with the ghost icon? And I said, well, that's me. I hope it doesn't bother you. And then they kind of understood what's the interest of basically, if you know who you're speaking to, you don't necessarily need to put your name on it, because the people recognize you by voice or by whatever. And it's not that you're afraid of showing it, but you even now, end-to-end encryption, people don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, I have been aware of stuff where people pay for end-to-end encryption on company lines. It wasn't even beginning to be encrypted, and everything was out there, free to and sensitive data. So that's the kind of thing where it's not just only your identity, it's about your business, it's about lots of things.
So then saying that, so what does this mean in terms of, if you're thinking about, we've got a lot of either individual or smaller operators or scaling businesses. A lot of people are working remotely right now. Obviously, you could work from a cafe, you could work from home, work from wherever. So what does that mean in this current environment?
Well, it's very dangerous because basically computing power is much more available today than it is several years ago. It takes less time to decrypt a WPA2 or whatever algorithm you're using to be on a secure network. Sometimes even these networks, they're free. So individuals that are actually scanning these frequencies and want to have access, maybe they're after your name, maybe they want to do identity theft, credit card number theft, maybe they just want to know what your business is about.
Yeah, just for fun. Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to go into details, but the infrastructure also that you're using is very important, because some people say, yeah, I want to use Google, I want to use Zoom, but behind that, you're actually going for something that maybe you're not paying for, and it's not nothing new. But if you're not paying for it, it's that you're, you know, kind of the product is yourself then. And
well, not kind of, you are the product.
Yeah. So by using, it's nothing new. I mean, people most already know it, but thinking about it and how, especially at startup level, how important is trade secrecy. People think that anybody comes out with the same idea as you, and because you found it, you imagined it, that it's so easy, but it's not easy, and individuals are unique. So maybe it's something that looks like your idea, but the specifics, and it's always, I have a very close friend that says, devil's in the details. And protecting at that very stage, you must be serious about privacy, trade secrets, your email, all these things, which basically, I know when you're a startup, you don't necessarily want to pay to have that kind of peace of mind. So you don't use, somebody randomly uses your data, but it's really central, because it can save your company against competition, or just people that found up on internet that you're on something hot, and then they look it up, fine, and then you just get your idea stalled because you're using a free Wi-Fi, or just the access point that you're using is not secured. So you must have the budget to secure and protect your ideas and your intellectual property and your client base, and that's something which is it starts with your name and last name, and then it goes. I mean, when you register on Uber Eats, you don't put your name. You don't have to put your full name. You can use the part of it or put something fancy, but don't give it out. For the payment information, of course, you have to put it all there. But it's not the same.
So what can some of our folk be doing? I mean, these guys don't have extensive IT departments. They may be talking to, they might be talking to IP attorneys and things like that, but they'd be doing that purely from their product protection. They're not thinking about anything else. But so what can some of these guys do? They've got fairly limited budgets, and they're sitting there thinking, well, crap, everything I do is exposed. What do I do?
Exactly. So as some people, some entrepreneurs, some startuppers, nomads, digital nomads, business owners, they think that just because everything is open out there, that they don't need to take steps to protect it. And everything is valuable. And examples are many, where you have Google, you have major, kind of companies that are exploiting data scraping, using it, processing it. Look at Cambridge Analytica, Facebook. I mean, those are just examples that have been out there, exposed to public scrutiny, and that means that is very valuable. And as just data per se is valuable, you should even think about much more what's your intellectual property, how much more valuable it is. And advice is, and you're right, if you go, and I don't like that part of the story, but I am an attorney also, but it's the difference today is that even legal services, to speak in the field that is relevant also, because it's a law-related matter, is that today it has shifted to legal advice is considered as getting the document done, because as competition is same service, but maybe at lower cost, but not better service at the same cost, attorneys are more and more focusing to get the deal done, which gives them less and less time to basically understand the business of the client and what's the most valuable thing to protect.
Right.
So in my case, and that's why I'm sitting across the screen today with you, is that we have realized that we've kind of, we think it's very, very, very relevant, because we're actually shifting from advising people how to organize their ideas, how to basically unfold their business. And in some cases, what differentiates legal services from a commodity is that exact same thing. You can buy a share purchase agreement off internet for $50.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't tick all the boxes. If you buy it for a manufacturing plant, it's maybe not the same thing if you're selling a service company, and especially if you're in IT or programming, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And I had this discussion with a friend in common that we have, who's called Mark, yesterday, because
no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, he mentioned, he said, yeah, all this digital nomad stuff, people don't know how to organize themselves. And I said, you must be joking. These are IT guys. They're behind computers. They're living on computers.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, they don't.
And we had this question. He said, yeah, but if I hire a digital nomad, I may end up employing him. And I said, but come on. I mean, the principle is freelancing. So you're not, and this is the flexibility where people,
right.
There's an industry model, but when people take a step back and think why it's organized this way, is that because this is a kind of thing you don't have on board full-time employee, because you don't have enough business to ask someone to develop.
Right, and the flexibility that offers. Yeah,
exactly. So it's project-based. And this is why I said, sorry, but I don't understand the question. Because for me, by essence, it's something which is occasional, temporary, and it's the result driven. So if you pull out an agreement off the internet, you may end up employing someone in a country where you just ignore it. And this is the whole point about getting back to the basics: is why do we have digital nomads? Well, why do we have digital people? Why do we have digital nomads? And that's very important, because if you go back to the basics, it's just outsourcing. Yep. If you're outsourcing something, is that you don't have the capacity to employ full time, and it's something which is project based. And this is why, in my mind, maybe people end up working full time for somebody, but that mustn't be mixed up with the fact that you're employed, because you have a subordination, you have pay, you have some social benefits, stuff like that. And that's something which is incompatible with digital nomads, because they live 3 months in each country, 6 months, 9 months. They don't have enough time even to settle there and even file for.
They want to do that 1 or 2 hour meeting with you, do a bit of work on their computer, and then go off and ski or go and sightsee or something like that. That's part of why they're doing what they're, particularly the digital nomads. Now, there are people who do legitimately just go and live and work. You talked about Mark and Linda. That's what they're doing. That's what I'm doing here in America, working here. And so, yeah, so that's an interesting one. I mean, we talked a lot about, this whole concept of the outsourcing. And there's probably, even in that, and I've certainly in businesses I've run, I've outsourced a lot. Usually it's just strengths that I just don't have, that I don't particularly, like you say, you don't want to employ right now. And so, but that comes with its own inherent risks, of course, too, right? I mean, in terms of data and information, you're passing information between your business and this person who's sitting outside of your business, who may or may not be on secure connections. So yeah, it's a challenge. But just coming back to that fundamental question, I'm a digital nomad. Well, not all of our clients are digital nomads. Some of them are scaling businesses and growing businesses as well. But the point is, they're smaller. They haven't got millions of dollars to throw at cybersecurity. They haven't got, and probably haven't got $1,000 to throw at it. But it's what are those kind of fundamental things they could be doing. So, for example, one of the things I do, I travel a lot, right? So I have a VPN, right?
Yeah, but I know you've done something much better before that, which I was aware, because when we had a chat a couple of weeks ago, you just acquired it, and I have it next to me. people don't understand why are you putting a certain amount of money in Max Silicon. Well, they don't understand that this is now, even if you leave it on a table, nobody's going to pick it up. You can't do anything with it anymore. But how you see the point is that sometimes it doesn't take a lot of money to kind of understand what are the stakes. People say it's expensive. Okay, but maybe in absolute value, it's expensive.
Right.
But you can leave it now on a coffee table. Nobody's going to, well, at least people that have, I mean, intelligent people won't pick it up because they know that it's like iPhones. Nobody's stealing any more iPhones because you can't do anything with it anymore. Full stop. You pick up a new generation iPhone, you can throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
You can't activate it unless, well, if you're doing some advanced hacking, but I don't really think that you can use it anymore as an iPhone.
Yeah, you've got to really know what you're doing. You're not going to get some quick cash out of it, which is the majority of why stuff is stolen.
Yeah, you can't. In some cases, these chips inside these new generation MacBooks, you can't. Sorry to do. It's not advertisement, but not paid or whatever. So, but it's just an example of people don't. I mean, they can throw exactly the same money in an alternative hardware, which is not going to provide the same level of security. I mean, right. Yeah, Lenovo offers it for a couple of years now, but you have to understand how it works. You need to go into the firmware. You need it's like WizKid stuff. But this, you open it outside, you take it out of the box, and it authenticates even before you can put your username inside.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of things that I think people have a misbelief or a wrong perception that security comes at big budget. I think these are one of the things that it's important to understand is that you can always, if you need the service, it's not, you don't, it's like what we saw recently is that you have to ask. If you haven't asked, you shouldn't assume that it's a no. It can be a straight no, it can be no maybe, it can be yes, but subject to. And this is the whole beauty of the thing is that people forget that they can always look for an alternative, but they need to look for it. You always have, majors, you also have GAFAMs, these people are there established, they're on the top of the pyramid. But if you're looking and you're seeking for a service or for something which is specific, most of the time people spend their lives on finding that kind of service, that kind of advice. They can't even find it.
Yeah.
But once you're able to identify that somebody is able to deliver it, you shouldn't be shy about asking. You never know what comes back. You can end up having a partnership with that person because he likes your idea. You need something.
Right.
If we go back to the basics, I mean, cavemen used to exchange stuff. They didn't have currency. They didn't have gold. They didn't have anything. He said, I like your, kind of shovel. Yeah, you take my spear. And they traded. And I think that today, especially in startup environment, digital nomads, we know more and more people that are kind of exchanging stuff because they would like to really kick off their business. And it's an affordable thing that you can actually have. Mm-hmm. And security is one of those. Is that I'm not saying that any cloud service provider gets hacked, so I don't really think that there's anything bulletproof. But at least you can take reasonable steps compared to.
I always say, it's like the home security analogy, right? If you have an alarm in your home, that doesn't stop anyone coming in and stealing stuff.
Exactly.
But if you're in a street where 3 or 4 other houses don't have house alarms in them, why would they go to yours? And it's that kind of, it's enough of a deterrent that it's like, there's other people that are way easier than you. And I know personally, and I used to work in cybersecurity going back, brand protection, that sort of area. So I understand this part of the world very, very well. And from a marketing point of view, which was fascinating. And, so I pride myself in the fact that I've done a fair bit to protect how I operate online, how I lock things down, that sort of thing. I've got a few things that are public, but that's part of my own personal branding and that sort of thing as well. But a lot of people just have no idea. And I'm dealing with my kids as well, who put everything out there. It's just like, oh my goodness. But it's a real challenge because a lot of these guys have no idea. And like you said, it's not necessarily that this is ridiculous and expensive stuff. They're not thinking about it. They're just not thinking about it until they get hacked, until their credit card is suddenly stripped, or until, you know, they have their website taken down and they don't know how to rebuild it or whatever it is. And I think I've had all of those things happen to me at some stage in the past. But it's those, how do I get back and running as quickly as possible? And so it's very, very challenging. Yeah.
I have actually spoken to startups, and including myself. I talk to myself all the time. Where, you know, when because of the, you know, the gig economy or the expert economy, where we don't want to hire people, but we're bringing people in. You know, going back to the question you were asking, Jono, about what can startups do to protect themselves. I know that I should be doing a lot more. I trust people implicitly, and I have been burned badly emotionally and financially as a result. But with the tools that we use, we shouldn't give, you know, the simplest things that we can do, I guess, George, wouldn't you say, is just to set up another user and give them, you know, access, you know, a lower access, or not, you know, not full rights, you know, to the tools that you use. Because I remember I created a Facebook Facebook group 10 years ago, before it was a thing, when I lived in Australia, and it grew very popular very, very quickly, and there was actually a coup to get rid of me. But wow. Fortunately, because I created the group, they couldn't throw me out even if they wanted to, which was, I was so grateful to Facebook back then. But there are, you know, other tools where perhaps, you know, I shouldn't give my username and password to someone who I trust, who is currently working on a project with me at the moment. I should perhaps, you know, set them up with a new user and password. So those are the little things that we can do, can't we, George?
Yeah, well, so now it's you're absolutely right, and there are things that I maybe can't share, but others that now there is stuff which is basically available to, if you have two-factor authentication, you must turn it on. I mean, that allows you to put the password where you put doggy dog or my cat named Joe. Then you have the two-factor authentication that comes in. And still, there's no guarantee, but at least now, I mean, in cybersecurity, you do have companies that are pretty much advanced, and that's in choosing. What people don't understand also is that they don't get it straightforward. They say, yeah, I won't pay $50 for an email account. I said, why not? It was just for getting email. I said, yeah, but maybe this provider provides something more than just email. Oh, really? And what's that? So that kind of kicks off the conversation, and they said, oh, yeah, I didn't know that they have that already. I heard about it 5 years ago. Yes, now it's everyday stuff now. That's one way to process it. And the other way is, yeah, all these companies, especially on the digital side, advisory, web development, now it's pretty much standard. You do have different kind of levels of account. And if you don't have kind of a, you know, a tribe guru or a webmaster or whatever that is on an employment contract, you can just make also sure that the service agreement is pretty much clear, and how this is organized. Make sure that, you know, you have kind of a jurisdiction clause and applicable law in the country where you are, even if that may not get you far enough. It may trigger insurances, stuff like that. So there are a lot of things that you have to look at it in a free, really a 3D approach, to put things one after the other. And yeah, the security thing is something which is now, as they say, implemented by design, and serious service providers, online, digital, whatever, they do all have that. You have a device, you either authenticate with another device, and whatever they send in, short text messages, other stuff. I mean, so that's pretty much okay. But I think that most of the people that are doing it and are not tech savvy, because they're concentrating on where they have skills, talent, and where they want to attract and serve their customers, is in that case, reach out and identify someone that could give you the big picture. Because sometimes in an hour conversation, you can learn so much that can really save you time. Because if you're dedicating time to learn yourself, assuming that you have it, then you're not doing what you love doing. So you're not doing passion, you're rather on the job
Well,
learning.
I mean, this is an ongoing problem for guys in our world, and look, making you and I'd be the same, right? We kind of feel like we just can get in and give it a go ourselves or do it ourselves. My background originally was in marketing, and the amount of people who say, look, well, why would I talk to someone about my marketing when I can do it all myself? And then you look at what they're doing and going, that's probably why you should talk to someone. But, but there's also different things, and this is where we look at, people are good at the skill set that they bring to their business, and some of them may be good at marketing, or maybe good at understanding legal contracts, or digging down and researching, and but then you'd say, well, you shouldn't be the CEO, or you shouldn't be the the head of marketing, or whatever it might be either. Like it's about how you have those people. And I don't know about you, Georgie, but I've certainly seen, particularly in our world where we're talking with small companies, early growth startups, that sort of thing, there are a lot of people, and Business in Bare Feet is an example where just at the base level through our private Facebook group, for free, you can get access to some of our mentors and the conversations going on there. There are people who want to give this information away. I know you've been a part of those conversations as well, and you're one of those guys, but we all love the fact that we have a skill set that we can give away. And then we also consult that service out as well professionally. And so I think, that there is plenty of advice out there if you go looking for it, and if you go to the right places. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, you're right on that point, and this always reminds me of Simon Sinek's example about competition, and what companies that kind of, and it took me some time to understand what he was saying about companies are not made to make money, and I was like, well, a decent amount of them do.
Yeah.
And but it's it's this kind of thing where you get the agreement and you read and you say, I don't know what I can say, but he's like, oh, is it written on the side of the paper? But then going for it, and that's the whole approach, is that depending on the mindset, it's consulting, advising. It's something which is connects on personal level. So you can have the smartest person on the world, if you don't connect, maybe the conversation is not going to go down too far down the road. But here, I think what is important is that, at least a Business in Bare Feet, is that people are animated, or they're going around the same core value, which is most probably delivering a better service, or improving and helping people actually compete, but compete in a positive way, which is right. Not compete to crush and kind of go up and dominate the market. It's rather, and I'm going back to Simon's point, is that it's about, from my understanding, is about delivering a better product or a better service. And then when you put this in perspective, when you see Steve Jobs and Bill speaking, across the table, having tea or whatever, and God knows what outside, public scrutiny, is you say, these guys, they're like the most fierce competitors, and they're having tea together. Yeah. I was like, yeah, and that was the whole thing. Actually, is Amazon? It's not about killing and crushing everybody else and small businesses. They offer their platform to small businesses,
right?
But people don't understand that.
Yeah,
it's sharing. You have a technology that's the best technology on online selling, and then you end up offering it to other people, against a small fraction of what you're selling. But if you don't have the infrastructure, you'll be selling zero.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing is that especially in Business in Bare Feet, I think you can pretty much get that, and people are coming because you're ready to share and help people basically move forward and offer better services, make a better world, deliver better products. So you can't quantify everything, because maybe when that person kind of meet someone else and say, did you see this and this and this? They say, I heard that already somewhere. Yeah. It rings the bell. So maybe I'll get back to that person to see what was really behind the whole, the story behind it.
I think it comes back to that thing we've kind of lost in Western civilization. That is, it takes a village to raise a child, right? And so Business in Bare Feet is very much about, you know, it is the village raising the business, I guess. You know, the business is the child. And so it's so important, and getting that brain's trust and getting those people around you. Yeah, definitely.
And it's the other kind of example I give is open source. So like people are like, yeah, open source. Yeah. But how you get a neighborhood of coders, or sometimes neighborhood at the scale of internet is maybe half a continent, but you get all these people, you get these people from the neighborhood coding for free. Well, what's the big deal? But have you thought about making the planet a better place to live or whatever? I mean, that things that today in the societies in which we live is like running short, and that's motivation. And especially with the coronavirus, we kind of pick up that, yeah, well, big corporates are big corporates. They're after the money. Some are after the, you know, kind of better product, better service. But at our scale, like small, medium-sized businesses, it's kind of very difficult to, I mean, today it doesn't even, money is not enough to motivate people to convince them to jump on the project. Absolutely. And I'm involved in a couple of those currently, and it seems that if indeed, well, it's a business, so it's not for free, but because I think it's more reasonable to ask for a fee rather than exploit data or whatever, pools, analytics or whatever. But people are ready to join because there's a driving force and direction which speaks to them and kind of motivates them to join something, because there is like a higher goal that is being, that the pursuit is something which definitely is going to be a better product, or serving it differently, or even serving a different client base of people that are you know, kind of sensitive to different kind of things. And going back to that open source, yeah, today I know people that are actually setting up investment funds to do you know, pro bono basically. Yeah. And I was like, first time I saw the couple of drafts, and I said, yeah, interesting, you call this a manifest? Where do you come from? It's like, okay, Western Europe, have a dad, mom, Eastern Europe. No. So it's very interesting, because I read it a couple of times, and the first time I didn't understand it correctly, but you're planning to do an investment fund that invests in communism? They're like, yeah, you can say that. And I was like, come on, it's not possible. And actually it was. It's a fund. I can't really say more than that. Yeah. But it's I would be more than thrilled to share it when it happens. But at least key people in the tech industry, yeah, they open source stuff like that they are looking into projects that once you reach, and I had that conversation with a contact, that once you reach the true entrepreneurs, the one that, you know, that really hands-on, they're basically building the business themselves, and if one day they happen to be successful, well, they're the first ones actually that would like to give back to community, friends, or others that have been there, because sometimes sometimes it takes a hair to make the difference, you know, kind of that millimeter that it could be a meeting, it can be an encounter around the, you know, even at the airport, you're waiting, you're sleeping, you say, hey, hi, my name is Joe, whatever, and then it turns up into something very, very interesting, and then you get to know each other, and then something else happens. And these kind of things are more and more important, because some of these entrepreneurs and successful business owners and founders, they're ready, and they're just basically looking for projects and people to support insofar as it does make sense. And
well, and it's fascinating, you know, like just from my own experience too, as you do more of that too, you also open yourself to the fact that there may be some investment opportunities, some sweat equity, or co-founding opportunities as well. Maybe a business that complements what you're doing, or that you have a complementary skill for them, or whatever it might be. And so, but leaving yourself open to that, we've talked about this a lot, right, mate King? That whole concept of, I think a successful entrepreneur is someone who remains open to possibility. And, you know, whatever that means, you know, it's, And you're right, Georgie. You know, the money motivator. We still got to make money, and we want to see that as one of the success indicators. We want to write that off, but at the same time, it's not the primary motivator. And I certainly work with a lot of business where it's like, okay, so if we're talking about price, if we're talking about how much money you're going to make here, yes, we need that from a financial projections point of view, all that sort of thing makes sense. An investor wants to see that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you've also no longer got real intrinsic value. And so, yeah, certainly getting that brains trust around you helps you discover that, helps you build on that. And an organization or a community like Business in Bare Feet is really poised in that space. Well, this has been really interesting. We're actually coming up on the hour. So Georgie, what I want to do is, first of all, I just want to thank you for your time. And I want to thank you for the information. We kind of launched straight into it today, but it's been fascinating. Mei King, have you got anything you wanted to ask, or anything you wanted to recap before we sign off?
No, I think that it was fascinating. It doesn't matter where you are in your business, security is definitely something that we need to look at. And thanks, George, for sharing your insight into that, no matter where you are on the path. Also, absolutely loved talking about, how, the big entrepreneurs out there, the successful ones are not necessarily, money is not necessarily, it's a happy byproduct of the difference that they're making in the world. Yeah. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I actually came across a company the other week who are wanting to help sustainable companies, or companies who are ethical and sustainable and are promoting something towards the environment. But in return for all the training that they're going to get in setting up the business, they want a small equity stake. Right. So I thought that was a really interesting business model as well, because money is not a driving factor, but they want to promote the planet, and they're just finding ways of actually helping those startups who are doing just that, which I thought was incredible. So so thanks for the conversation, Georgie. It was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, we'll do our formal sign off here. Obviously, just stay on the line, Georgie, but we'll do our formal sign off. It's been a pleasure having you today. Look forward to more conversations. I think we've unpacked a mind that's got a lot of stuff inside of it.
Yeah, so I think we could spend the rest of the evening actually speaking.
Yeah. Well, it's only the morning here, so I'm good. You just but Georgie, thank you very much. Mei King, as always, it's great having you here, and we look forward to connecting with you on our next Fireside Chat. Thanks very much.
Thank you too. Have a nice one. Bye.